Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Writers Chat. This is our first episode for 2019, and we're really excited to be here today. We're going to have an open mic session as we talk about goals for a new year. We do welcome you. If this is your first time to see one of our episodes, we're really glad that you found us. We ask that you join our Facebook group at Writers Chat. Just look for that, and you can find us. And to look at our other episodes that we've done in the past too, which are all on our YouTube channel. Excuse me, my name is Johnny Alexander. I'm one of the co-hosts today, joined by my daughter, Bethany Jett. We're both writers. I write fiction, Bethany writes nonfiction. And we have a, excuse me, I've got a cold. I'm sorry. It's my Christmas gift, it seems like. Anyway, we're really glad you're here, joining us for Writers Chat as we talk about goals for 2019. I'm not sure exactly where to start. I was going to start with SMART goals, if that's okay with everybody. You may have heard this before, but it's a very easy, specific way to get into talking about goals, because I think a lot of times we think about goals, and sometimes what we're doing is not just goals, but they're dreams or ideals or priorities. And we need to sometimes make those distinctions between what we're really talking about. So when you're talking about a goal, what you're really talking about is something that is very specific. And that is actually the S in SMART. So if you think of the acrostic SMART, we're going to be talking about SMART goals. And S is specific. M is measurable. A is attainable, R is realistic. I've also seen it as relevant, and T is timely. So for example, you could have as your goal, I'm going to get a publisher to accept my novel, which is going to be 300,000 words, you know, and that is really not a SMART goal at all. Because even though it's specific, you've said what you wanted to do, and you've got a word count, and you've got the project in mind, it's actually not very attainable because most publishing companies don't want 300,000 word novels. It's also not very realistic. You haven't put a timeline on it. But the biggest problem with a goal like that is that it's out of your control. And that is one of the very first things we want to talk about as far as setting goals. It's great to say, I am going to take Sherilyn's writing proposal course or have her help me with my proposal. I'm going to have a proposal ready to submit to 2 agents at this very specific writers conference and see what happens. But you cannot control whether or not an agent actually offers you a contract or whether a publisher offers you a contract. So you have to think about goals in terms of what you can control and what you can do. And then your dream, of course, is maybe in someone else's control. And that's your ideal, and that's your dream, and that's fine. And we've got to have those too. But as far as goals are concerned, you just need to think about, is this really something, is this something I have control over? And what aspects of this goal do I have control over, so that you can set that and you set deadlines for yourself. Anyone have anything to add to that?
I thought you explained that really well.
Thank you. So we do want to talk about the goals that you all have, and if you need help making those into SMART goals, we can try to do that. Yeah, so Bethany, start us off. What's the goal that you have for 2019?
So many goals.
One goal.
Well, the most urgent goal is to finish edits for a book that is releasing this year. So I think that's probably the most urgent goal, but that's not really helpful.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's specific. You've got to finish the edits. I'm sure it's timely. You have a deadline. It's realistic. You can get it done. I'm kind of going backwards now. It's attainable, achievable, and measurable. I think that's a smart goal, and it is. I mean, it's something you do have to finish. I'm looking at people who aren't already muted. So Rachel.
Yeah, I have an example.
Yeah.
I have other goals that aren't formed into SMART goals, but I have one that is already.
Okay.
I noticed in the fall, because I had joined some Pin 30 challenges on Facebook, which if you're not familiar with them, somebody organizes a system where, okay, you pin 30 pins from this person this day, the next day you pin 30 pins from this other person another day. So somebody's pinning my pins every day, at least 30 of them, and I'm pinning somebody else. So I did 2 of those in a row, and my blog traffic doubled. And
Great.
even after the challenges were done, it still like snowballed and got the ball rolling that my blog traffic continued to increase. And I was thinking, oh, I never really pay attention to Pinterest, but this should be somewhere that I am, I think. So I remember, Melissa, you had done a Pinterest day like a while ago. And I did a little bit with Pinterest that day. But anyway, so my goal kind of was, I got to focus on Pinterest more if that's giving me that much more traffic. So my goal now, I'm not in any Pin 30 challenges at the moment, but I want to continue to pin 30 pins a day from somebody else, and then to follow at least 5 more people a day. Usually when you hit follow, it gives you more people to follow, and I just, it usually ends up being more than 5. But so that's my SMART goal, I guess, for 2019.
That's really good, and very it's specific, it's measurable, because she's got numbers on there. 30, I'm going to do 30 pins, I'm going to do 5 follows a day. It's attainable because it probably doesn't take you that long to do it. It's realistic, you can fit it into your schedule, and it's timely because you are doing it. Do you have a deadline though, or is this just something you're going to try to keep
I don't know yet. I think I want to try it at least for January and February and see what happens. I mean, the other part of it is now I have to make sure I keep putting new content on my Pinterest boards. I need to clean up my boards. I have other work to do on Pinterest to make it better. But if I just start with those, I think that'll propel me to, if I'm on there every day, I'll be like, oh, right, I need to do that with the rest of the Pinterest stuff.
That's wonderful. And I'm guessing too, I kind of know, but I don't know your regularity. How often do you blog?
It's once a week. On Mondays is when my new post comes out. So yeah, which is a lot. So I don't, if I get a book deal this year, I'll probably have to make it less. But for now, that's what I'm doing.
Oh, that's wonderful. And very, and I know from seeing Rachel's blogs, they're very in-depth. It's not just short little things like I did. She really digs deep into her blog post. That's really great. I'm excited for you.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Rhonda, do you have a goal for this year?
I'm listening to your advice about SMART goals, and the thing that was most on my mind when I logged in today was I need goals that just count on me, because I've learned in life I cannot count on other people. And if I have a goal that involves someone else, it really tends to go sideways for me. So one of my goals is to actually finish a manuscript. Choose one and finish it. I got some advice from someone who shall remain nameless that I should not write books, I should write proposals and just start submitting proposals. And then when I got accepted, write the book. That was well over a year ago. And I have like a dozen projects started. And if I don't finish one, I will be bald, because I am just so frustrated by not having something done. And for me, part of it is finishing it because the Lord told me to, and because I want to, not because someone's waiting for it or someone's going to publish it. Because my hopes have been dashed too many times if I put that as my goal. I'm going to finish this so and so will read it. Well, maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe I will send it off on an email and I will never hear from them again. So that can't be part of the goal. The goal has to be to finish it, to do my best, and to finish. So I will boldly state that I have a screenplay in development and I want to finish it by the end of January.
Oh, good, good.
And then submit it.
Yeah, and that's specific and attainable and achievable and realistic and timely. You can do all, you can do that. Yeah, I appreciate what you said about, again, going back to not being able to control things, because you can't. You can hope that someone will read it. You can hope and dream it. Different things will happen. But again, you can't control what other people are going to do. So your goals really have to focus on what you can do. Like, I can do this and make it that way. And yes, dream big, absolutely.
Well, one of the things I've said to people is I feel like if you've ever watched a cat that stalks something, a mouse or a toy, they focus and they get down, they get on the ground, and then they back up. And then they back up a step or two more. I feel like that cat that keeps backing up but never pounces. And I need to pounce on the goal and not be distracted. There are so many distractions that come. But I really believe if I focus and write what's on my heart, it will go somewhere. And you give it to God, and then where it goes is up to Him.
I love that you said that, because it's kind of a segue into something else I wanted to talk about this morning. I kind of pulled out notes where Jeannie and I did an after hours at the Florida Christian Writers Conference way back in 2011, and we talked about goals. And I don't know if y'all know this about Jeannie, but she is a very detailed, I'm so sorry she's not here today, because she is a very detailed goal setter. And she divides the year into quarters and into months, and she has all these bullet points, and it's like pages and pages long, and it's just like overwhelming to me. And as the years have gone by, I mean, my goals get shorter and shorter and shorter, and just very, I don't know. It's just like I'm not that detailed when it comes to setting all these goals as I was at one point in my life. It's just I want to keep life very simple. So we did this workshop together, and she's talking about SMART goals and all of this and all the goals. And my part of that program or that talk was FOCUS, which also is an acronym, FOCUS, follow one course until successful. And that's kind of what Rhonda is talking about. She's really going to focus right now on her screenplay, which is really a cool idea. So if the idea of goals just sort of makes your creativity shrivel because you just don't want to be that tied into things, you might just want to think about that. Focus. Follow one course until successful. And then you can do something else. Of course, and then we have to talk about what's the meaning of success. And this information comes from Chip McGregor. He talks about this at different, I've heard him talk about success and write about it on his blog. He's a literary agent. And, here's what he says. Success is the feeling you get when you reach your goals. I mean, that's kind of the way we look at it. So if I say I'm going to make an annual writing income of $50,000 and I only make $49,000, I might feel really bummed out and feel like, oh, I just wasn't a success at all. Now, that's just a crazy little example, right? So what we tend to do is success is an internal take on our external work, which may or may not be valid, okay? Because really, if I made $49,000 a year writing, I would be thrilled, no matter, what my goal was. But, it just kind of, we set these things and then we meet them or we don't meet them. And just because we don't meet them doesn't mean we didn't have, that things weren't positive, but we can feel like a failure. So what he talks about is thinking of success as making a difference in the lives of people over time. And I think that's just a really great way of looking at it. Instead of trying to think of success in terms of our accomplishments or our achievements, think about over time what we have done to affect other people and what you can do to encourage others just to be a positive influence on somebody else and make a difference in someone's life. And then we're not going to get so caught up on whether, we were a success or not. But what's more important is, are we doing what God wants us to do? And yeah, and that just made me think of this little story that someone posted in a Facebook group I was in the other day, and about a king going through his garden and the oak tree being unhappy, and because he wasn't, I forget why, because he didn't have pine needles or something, and then the lilac being unhappy because it didn't smell as wonderful as the honeysuckle, and the pear tree being unhappy because it didn't grow grapes. I mean, so everything was unhappy, every plant in the garden except the violet. And the violet said, I know you created me, and I may be just a little violet, but I know you created me because you wanted me in your garden, so I'm going to be the best little violet I can be. So, God planted us, right? He created us. We may not have the skills or the opportunities of somebody else, but we can still be the best little violet he made us to be. So that's the encouragement. Bethany, I'm going to turn it over to you for a little bit because my throat is hurting.
Well, when you were saying that, I was thinking about lessons. I talked about this last week. When I was in direct sales, I used to go to sales meetings. They would talk about personal development, time management. And you just brought back to mind something that they taught us, which was to make throw-up goals, although they didn't call it that. But it was like dreams so big that the thought of having to do it actually made you feel like you were excited about it because it's your goal, but then it just kind of made you sick to your stomach, like, how could I ever actually get there? And then, so once you kind of knew what that was, and sometimes for us as writers, it's, the book, getting the book turned in, or, and I think too, I think we should have secondary and third, like tertiary goals. So someone remind me, I want to come back to that. So have your goal, but then they teach you how to break it up. So if you give yourself a deadline, like with the SMART goals that you were saying, like the time, you have like so many months, whatever, to get this done. Then you kind of start breaking it down into the smaller chunks. So if you have to get, my mom does this with her word count. If she has to get a 100,000 word novel done in 6 months, she divides that by 6. This is how many words have to be done each month. And then she'll take that number and divide it by 4. How many words per week? And then she'll say, okay, I'm only going to write 5 days a week because I want to have a life. So she would then divide that number by 5 until you get to your daily goal. And so all of a sudden that 100,000 word book doesn't seem so daunting, because now like you only have to write I'm making this all up, 2,000 words a day or whatever. And then you can kind of see, is that actually going to work in my schedule, and is it going to be realistic? And if not, then you pivot. And I think we have to give ourselves permission to pivot from the goals as well. Like, if you don't make the 2,000 in one day, can you make it up during the week? Which is, I know Mom and I have talked about this. We don't necessarily look at daily stuff anymore, although we do try to get things done. I have a week. And so if it doesn't get done on Monday, I'm not stressed. Even with homeschool, I have freedom from this now. Things do not have to be done on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. It can happen during my week block. And so that kind of gives us more freedom too. So any follow-up to that, and then I want to go into secondary, tertiary goals. And I have to remember why I said I was going to say that. So I need someone else to talk for just a minute.
I think of what Dirk said about adding, if we go back and watch what he told us, little tiny steps in adding it to something that we already do. And I do what you do, Bethany. I do week goals. I do have my daily goals, but I give myself time during the week, if I miss something, to go back and do it. Like, my goal for this year is to read a book a month. I know some of you read a book a day. I can't do that because I'm reading all day long with my book proposals and stuff, and my brain is just starting to heal. But for me to read a book a month, so what I've done is I've prayed and I asked the Lord, what books do you want me to read? And continually he puts on my heart, read the books of your author friends. And so that's what I'm doing. Because I think that I'm making a list. I haven't done it yet, but I've got my planner right here. I got it as a gift. And in the front, I'm going to put the books I'm going to read, and I'm going to check them off after I read them. And some of them books I'm going to read with my son because I'm homeschooling. So I'm incorporating 2 in 1. 2 activities in one. So that's what I'm doing, and adding it to, wanting to read, adding it to something I've already done, like Dirk said, something that I'm already doing.
I did want to comment on something Rhonda said in the chat where you feel like you failed when you don't get your goals done. So I've started creating a master list. I like to categorize in subfolder. Jeannie and I are very, very similar personality types, like across every personality test. So like I have different categories, but when I'm looking at my planner, which I'm using a digital one a lot more, I can't wait to go back to doing a planner day with digital stuff. But so I look at my master list, and then I think about the day, and I think what has to get done today. Whereas if I go to bed tonight, I'm either going to be in trouble, someone's going to be mad at me, or I'm going to be like have anxiety over it. And so those 3, it's usually 3 or 4 things. I don't go over 5 or 6. These are things that have to get done today. And as long as I got those 3 things done today, I can kind of mix in all the rest of the stuff from the master list. And that's kind of helped me like not be so stressed, because I'm a very anxious person all the time. So that helps. If anyone else suffers from that, I completely hear you. Okay. Anybody else have anything else before we move to like secondary? And I like the word tertiary. It's my word of the day, apparently.
I like that word too.
I never used it until I started putting it into proposals. I always called it
tertiary. Yeah.
Yes. I had my target audience. Yes. And then I had groups. I began with an A. I had another word that I called everything else, affinity groups. And now I do target audience, secondary audience, like a tertiary audience, affinity groups. It's so much more detailed now, but tertiary. Anybody?
Yeah, anyone else want to join in?
Well, we should have anxiety. Sorry, I can't see everybody. I'm sorry.
Well, I kind of have had a slump since November, and so I'm trying to get back in it. And part of what I'm doing is I'm actually helping another friend who wanted some beta readers. And so I think for me, my goal is to offer something constructive to somebody else. And I think that'll probably build my confidence, because I keep re-guessing all my beginnings and I keep rewriting my beginnings. And so I just need to kind of get back into the mood and somehow get some more confidence in what I've written, because it's fiction. And so that's really, really subjective.
So you're talking about you're writing the beginnings of one novel over and over again instead of finishing that novel?
The one you looked at, the proposal, yeah, the Waters Break. I keep changing because people keep pointing out to me, well, you should do this, you should do that. And I keep trying to, because I know I have a lot to learn. And so I figured I'd take a look from somebody else who's also learning. And
you may. I didn't mean to say like, well, yeah, you do have a lot to learn. That's not how that came out of my mouth. So wrong. What I really think though is that what you need to do, or maybe someone else will tell you what you need to do. You need to finish it, because until you finish it, you don't know what that beginning may need to be.
I finished it.
Okay, you have finished it.
I finished. It's like an 80,000 something novel, and it's got 2 more to follow. But now that it's finished and I got some critique groups looking at it, it's like there's a lot to critique, and I'm just trying to figure out how much do I restart. How do I have to change that? Because it's science fiction. Weird setting, weird people, everything's weird, and I have to.
Yeah, it's coming back to me. I remember, I think I really liked that story, that the opening to that. But yeah, that's good. But as you work with different critique groups, it's great to be in a critique group. I think everybody needs to be, especially when you're first starting out. You will learn whose voices in that critique group you need to pay the most attention to in different critique groups. And that's what you want to be then, depending on those people, so that as time goes on, you have less and less people putting different ideas into your head. I have a friend who's, I think she's a member of 3 or 4 different critique groups, and she's always rewriting the same things because she has too many people giving opinions on things, and she never then finishes the story. So, you need to figure out who in those critique groups, and not that they may be great, but there are going to be specific ones who speak best to you in your writing, in your genre, and those are the ones that you're going to want to really cultivate as being.
That's what I need to find.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Wordweavers has online groups that they do often, and that's a great model.
Who does?
Method. Wordweavers, their online groups are just popping up all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a lot already, and they're still doing more. So that would be I would recommend checking them out because they have a good system on how they do their critiques.
And critiquing others, that really helps too. I mean, when I was first starting out and critiquing other people and having to, like, something didn't sound right to me, but I couldn't just say this doesn't sound right. I had to give a reason, and having to figure out what that reason was. I mean, that was very, very beneficial. But yeah, it's a process, and it's not a short way. It's a long way.
So my goal is to finish the beginning and to do the proposal and submit. So that's my goal.
Good.
It's very scary.
It is scary. It absolutely is scary. Do you have a deadline in mind?
Well, I've got a son getting married in 2 weeks, so not this month. I'd like to do that by March. My husband and I are going to take a trip in March, and so I would like to submit before I leave, and then just enjoy
Forget
it
about it for a while.
Yes.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you.
So 3 months, huh?
You can do it. That's doable.
So
Who else?
Johnny, I have a concern because I have so many goals, and at this point with my writing, I'm not sure where to put my focus. But for the first time, I really have some book ideas and have gotten some good feedback. So I want to. One of my goals, I'm trying to make this as a SMART goal, is to at least sketch those out and get them in some kind of format before I go to the Florida Christian Writers Conference in May. And then I've paid for 3 classes I haven't even taken yet. So I'm going to, Lord willing, take those classes. And then I want to set a goal of maybe doing 1 serious writer course per month. And I want to get Rhonda. Rhonda, I'll email you. I want to get you to help me some more. You already have with my blog. And then social media. I really need to work on that. So anyway, I have lots of them, so I don't even know where to start.
That's that can make it a little bit overwhelming when you feel like you've got all these things. So Bethany, tell Jeannie how she can pull these things together.
Okay, so I was totally jiving with you on that because I was like, oh yeah, because I have a category of like goals in there. So I would break them up into like monthly, weekly, daily things. Like I love that you said, a class a month. Like that gave you a time frame to be able to get it done. So then you could break that down. Okay, this week I'm going to watch 2 modules or whatever. I would just start taking all those goals and then breaking them up by weeks. I don't know, by week, and say, okay, can I get all of this done in a week? And if you can't, the ones that don't bring you as much joy, because I'm doing the KonMari method, if anyone's watching that on Netflix, you heard joy a lot. So any of the ones that don't bring you joy right away, I would just push those back and have those be their secondary goals and start primary, secondary, and then tertiary goals. Can't help it. That's what I would do. I would just start breaking them down into that. And like on social media, I would just I told my mom I want to create like a little checklist for everybody that gives you like, first thing of the day, here's just 5 steps for each platform. So like within 10 or 15 minutes, you could have hit every platform that you're on and done some kind of engagement or growth or something. But then that's kind of started for the day. And then the rest of your day, you can go back in and play on the ones that you like to play with more. So like that's probably another writer's chat thing. That would break it down. And I'm with you. Like that's lots of goals, but they're all going to work together, which is why it's so much fun. That's going to help your writing as you keep going. You'll be growing in so many different areas. So I love that.
Thank you. I hope you do that. That would be helpful.
I need to. That's what I'm going to work on. That's another goal.
another task. I think too, we need to think, going back to and we've talked about this in Writer's Chat before, the whole rock in the jar principle. It's like, okay, what is the biggest thing you need to do? So you need to be working on that every day. Like I do have very specific writing goals for this year because God, it's been really good. I've got 4 contracts, and it's like I know, but it's very scary too because I've never written this much in 1 year before. So it's like I have got to do this every year. So that writing is my rock in the jar, especially if I only want to write Monday through Friday and keep the weekends as rest days. So it's like that has got to be done first. And so Jeannie and everyone else, think about what's the rock in the jar? What is the big project that's going to take time, that you've got to do a little bit on it almost every day to make sure you reach your goal. And that has to be, for most days, the thing that you concentrate on getting done first. And then you can have your stones and you can have your pebbles. And I know I've talked about sometimes I just have to have a pebble day because the pebbles start getting out of control. And they're little things that you just got to take care of them. So you have a pebble day where you just take care of all the little pebbles in your life. That, you might want to think about it like that. So, and I'm sorry, you said one of your big ones was to do a proposal. Was that right? Or was?
Well, I just feel like I'm at the point of needing to sketch out ideas I have to see if one of them will work into a proposal. But I'm going to the Florida conference, and I remember Bethany talking one time about having a paragraph description of book ideas.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said, Bethany, even if you're not at the point of a full proposal, but just to have a talking point with someone about that.
I have something to say about that off the recording.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll remind her.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be great then, that's, the conference is coming up, that you have to have this done before the conference. And are you talking about nonfiction proposals ideas?
Yes.
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 That's going to work. And that would be, that I would suggest that as your rock in your jar for the next few weeks. That's what you need to really concentrate on, and then try to do the other things you mentioned too to fit those in so that you get those done as well, and you're growing and learning and, like taking classes, like you said, you want to be doing that too. I think you're on I think you've got a good start. That's great.
I'll just throw in something here, Johnny. Excuse me, whoever I interrupted. I'm just listening to everybody's goals, and I need a nap.
Yes.
And I will tell you that even higher in my life right now than the writing goals is personal fitness. Mm-hmm. And God put that on the front burner just before Thanksgiving, which is really cruel. I started a diet like a week before Thanksgiving, and I've hired a personal trainer, and I'm going 3 days a week for an hour to our town has a seminary, and there's a gym there, and I'm finding more exercise and better diet, and I have more stamina.
Yeah.
And I'm not just laying in the recliner at the end of the day going, that was a rough day. I've actually got some energy to get some things done, because for me, I wrote myself off at 5 o'clock because I was too tired to do anything else. And I really will say, even though I hate sweat, I call it perspiration. But
you're glowing.
Yeah,
am I glowing? It's hard. It's hard work, but without that work, I can't do the other work.
That's inspiring, really.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's one of my daily goals, Rhonda, is to do, so embarrassing, 5,000 steps. Because so many people do 10,000 and it got overwhelming. But on days that I'm like literally at my computer, I might get 2,000 just from walking in the house. And it's unacceptable. So like one of my daily goals, and I don't have very many daily ones, is a 5,000 step. And I'm doing a tracker. Dirk, he was great.
Yes.
So anyone who's watching, please go back and find the replay for, what's his last name? Dirk.
Schwartz. Oh, Schwartz. Thank you. Thank you. Dirk Schwartz. Yes.
And about connecting things. I thought, you know what? I just need to start small. So like I could do a mile lap to the mailbox and around the neighborhood and come back and go down the street and back. And that's also goals, like hitting 1 mile and on purpose, and the 5,000 is a daily thing. Because like it does connect to our writing when we feel better. And I love that you hired someone to help you, because in the areas that are really big and out of control, I think that's really smart. And just to share with y'all mine, I've got 3 kids at home who are homeschooling, and we live in a small little townhome. So we finally hired housekeepers, and they're coming back today, and I'm so excited. But it took forever for me to be able to release that to someone else, like to help with that. But I'm so much happier when they're here. Well, once they're gone. I'm anxious when they're here. But once they leave, it's amazing. So like, I love that. Like, if you need help, hire somebody to do those big things. I think we need to give ourselves permission sometimes to do that. It took me a long time to get to that point. So I love that you're doing that.
Yeah. I will say too, and someone mentioned in the chat, accountability.
Mhm.
Yes.
You know, I'm a whiner, and I told my trainer right up front that I whine, and I've discovered his philosophy. He's 31, and you know, a fitness. I mean, he's just real buff and everything. And his plan for me is I do as many reps until I can't do any more, and then I do 3 more.
Whoa.
You know? And it's that push that someone else gives. And for me, I've done this. I have lots of experience in this arena, and a lot of it is unsuccessful. And I think one of the reasons is because I'm not hard enough on myself when it comes to that. You know, where the word says, I buffet my body, well, I buffet my body. That goes different. So it's just a matter of accountability for me and hiring someone. I know when I hired a housekeeper, Bethany, a couple times in my life, I hired a housekeeper. I cleaned better than I ever cleaned before because I didn't want somebody to come in and see my mess. So I don't know. There is something about involving a professional in certain areas of life that's worth the money.
Yeah, and right now we're doing. We've talked about the book, The Magic Art of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, and Netflix has an original series with her now, where she's actually going into people's homes and you can see her like do it out. And so Justin's back from deployment, and so we made a goal to like purge and declutter the house again. And so since the house people were coming today, it was like we had to get through step 1 the day after we came back from like vacation. And so like I can no longer like put off emails and things because people are back to work, you know. So I mean, he's in the kitchen and I'm like right here working and stuff. But we got step 1 done, and having that deadline and the accountability of knowing that they were coming, and I had to have clean counter spaces for them to actually be able to clean and not just move stuff around, was a huge drive to get it finished. I guess because I didn't want to waste the money on them not being able to do anything because there was too much stuff, you know. Still,
Bethany, I have a question. Do you reward yourself when you achieve partial goal, like a tertiary, secondary, or primary goal? Do you have like certain rewards? And do you recommend that?
We do. Anytime that there's something to do with a book, like a contract, or I reward myself a lot for no reason. So I don't really get motivated by rewards because I'll just go do it. But what we have done is kind of pull it into the family thing. So we always go get frozen yogurt, either at Minchie's or some kind of frozen yogurt place where the kids can get toppings. You know, so if I get a call, you know, that, oh, the book's going to committee, I'm like, oh, we're going to go to Minchie's and get frozen yogurt because something good has happened. Because it can take so long, and because those goals are ones that they're so big and the kids have to be so good for so long when doing all of that, that is one area where I do purposeful rewards, is anything that has to do with the book contract or a magazine, if a big magazine article gets sold or something like that. Otherwise, like I said, I just kind of reward myself anyway.
So how do we motivate ourselves? How do we motivate ourselves to even write the goals? Because I know once you writing them is so important, because that's that's a big part of it. But how do we motivate ourselves?
I can address this a little bit. I have learned, I am a lifelong dieter, and one of my many book manuscripts is about my dieting journey and the things that God has shown me. There's only one kind of motivation that works for me, as a committed believer, and that is to please God.
Me too.
Everything else fades. You know, if it was lose weight to get into this dress for my daughter's wedding, which came and went, that didn't do it for me. That external motivation just does not work. It has to be internal. And even the internal motivation, I'm doing this for me, does not work for me. It has to be, I'm doing this because God told me to. And I am a very obedient girl. I do what I'm supposed to do to the best of my ability, sometimes to my detriment. But that's the only thing that lasts and the only thing that works. So even the rewards for me, you know, I would diet and then if I lost 10 pounds, go have a milkshake at Chick-fil-A. I mean, that's, you know, that is not going to, the reward is the satisfaction of knowing I made God smile today.
Amen.
How many of you, when you make a list so, you know, Rhonda was very spiritual, and I'm going to go off on thought. So I appreciate what you said. You make a list for like groceries, and then or a to-do list, and then you did something else that wasn't on the to-do list, so you write it down on the to-do list just so you can check it off. Right? There is some satisfaction in doing that. So like Jeannie and Bethany, they get great satisfaction, I think, and reward from just writing all these goals down and having all these things, you know, and sometimes it's just that little, I don't know whether it's a little burst of some kind of, you know, something in our heads or whatever, that can be a reward. I'm not sure how that motivates anybody, but it just is what I thought about as you were talking about those kinds of things. And sometimes the reward is just being able to get it all down on paper, you know, to see it in black and white or on your laptop or whatever. And sometimes it's then being able to check it off and put that X by it or crossing it out or whatever you do, that in itself can be the reward. And if you're doing, like I keep track of word count goals, and Bethany, I mean, I do think more in terms of the week than I know if I'm going to get, right now it's 5,500 words a week. So if I don't want to work on Saturday and Sunday, it's 1,100 words a day. So I keep track of that, and it's just cool to see those numbers go down, and then, you know, to see how many words are left, and, you know, how many words I still need to do the week or that day or whatever. I've got an Excel worksheet. That's the detailed part of me that I need to have so that my creativeness can flourish, my creativity can flourish too.
How do you
There's
keep,
psychology behind that.
Okay, pardon? I had two different voices go on.
how do you keep your goal list from becoming overwhelming?
Well, I think it can, and that's one reason I have found, like I said at the beginning, I sort of have really cut mine down as years have gone by. I'm not nearly as detailed as I used to be with that, because it becomes more of a burden than a tool. So I think that's kind of an individual thing. I mean, you've got, you know, it's that whole thing, like, you know, some people like that. They like very detailed goals. Other people want things to be broader. And I also think that sometimes we just need to learn to say no to some things, that we take on a lot of stuff, and then it becomes overwhelming because we truly do not have time to do everything that we need to do, plus, you know, be obedient to God as far as what He would have us to do, because we've just accumulated all these tasks and commitments. And
I will give you a little tip, Mary, that works for me, and this is from my work life before I really launched into full-time writing. I would keep these very detailed to-do lists, and they were pretty long. Sometimes they would fill up a page. And what I did is I recopied my list almost every day or every other day. And what I found is there were some things I was so tired of writing them on my list that I got the courage to cross it off. To admit to myself, this is not going to happen, and I'm tired of writing this task down. Either I'm going to get it done, or I'm going to back out. And it's hard for me once I've given my word to back out. But there are some times when I've given my word unwisely, and I need to just take my medicine, back out, and realize I'm not going to get it done, and then ask forgiveness, forgive myself, and move on. But that discipline of writing those tasks down, I mean, some tasks just got to the point where I can't do this anymore. And that helps you whittle down what's really not as important. If something more important is taking up your time every day, maybe that thing you keep writing down isn't as important as you think it is.
Yeah. Good point.
That's a good point.
Well, that answered a question I had about how do you make your goals happen. Like yesterday, I wrote a list of all I needed to do, and one of those was go to the gym, which I did. And then my friend said, "Hey, can you meet me for just a couple minutes? I have something for you." And I said, "Sure." And that couple minutes turned into 2.5 hours. And then I got home, and it was time for my kids and my husband to get, and nothing on my list got done. And it seems like the more I'm intentional about setting goals and daily goals, the more of that kind of stuff happens. And I have a hard time with goals. I'm being super transparent. I have a really hard time with goals. So I'm open for advice.
I think one thing we need to maybe separate in our minds are goals and to-dos. And maybe if our goal is a little broader, we can not feel stressed like we didn't reach a goal. Then when we don't do a task that needed to be done. So let's talk about Brendan Burchard, who has not been brought up quite a bit.
Brendan.
He talks about tasks that move the needle forward underneath his to-do list. And so if their goal is to get a book proposal done, that would be the goal. And then you would set your time limit. But then underneath of that, you would say to move the needle 5 steps. These are the 5 steps to get the needle to submitting the book proposal. And you would outline those, maybe 5. I heard him teach on this. I don't remember how many he said, but let's just say 5. And so then if you break that down into the 5 needle moving steps, then you can kind of do the to-dos under there. So if your goal is to get the book proposal done, but it didn't get done because you went to go talk to a friend that day, it's still okay because the goal is still to get it done. You just didn't move the needle that day. And hopefully that really gave me some freedom when he started talking about needle moving projects. And then I was able to sort of say, okay, these are the things that will actually get me closer. And these are the kind of filler things that we all have that get stuck in there. And that can kind of help prioritize the day too. And then also make you not feel like you did something that didn't move your day forward by going to talk to your friend. Because I'm sure that was emotionally wonderful. I'm hoping that it was, and you got to have that time. And I think sometimes we feel guilty for that. I know, especially women, moms, I mean, I hear it all the time, like I do it. We just feel like, but maybe another goal is to be emotionally healthy with friendships. You moved the needle on that because you went to go be with a friend. So I'm just trying to think of a positive spin. I agree with Rhonda too about interruptions, divine appointments.
One thing that I find is I always pray about my goals. I know we're all Christians. And when you pray about your goals, God will give you your goals. But like what happened to you, that might have been ordained, and God will give you the time elsewhere to do that. We can't beat ourselves up. Like Bethany was saying, if you didn't move the needle forward, that's all right, because the needle went forward in another aspect of your life, in your friendships. God is not going to beat you up, so why are you beating you up? That's what I tell myself, unless I'm being lazy. And most of us aren't. Most of us are doing things. So don't beat ourselves up. God will guide you, and He's not beating you up.
One of the things I'm learning, Sherilyn, and I have a lot of those kinds of things in my life. There are women I mentor. Some of them I've mentored for 20 years. If they call me up, they go right to the top of my list, most of them. But I'm also learning, because I'm such a pleaser, and I said some of this in the chat, is to take just 3 seconds and say, God, and expecting from Him a yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who knows if that's an important appointment. I don't. I can't tell. But one of my faults is not asking him, having someone come along and just say, would you? And I'm like, well, sure. Before I even look at my schedule, for one, or check in, with my divine manager. He's my time.
I like that.
And if I don't check with him, I can really mess myself up. And I've done that before. So, I am building into that little step. It's one small step into a lot of my interactions during the day, and it's helping.
That's good. We only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the concept of words, because I've not been able to read all the chat that's been going on, but I know Dell brought up that she's got a word, pursue, for this year, and I think someone said confidence, and Bethany and I were together over Christmas, and interestingly enough, I kind of have 3 words, and they kind of all go together, but we end up having the same word, but we came at it 2 totally different ways with different scriptures, which was really interesting. So, like, you guys may remember, I put in a Facebook group not too long ago, Proverbs 23:12. Apply your heart to discipline and your ears to words of knowledge. And how that verse just really spoke to me, because I really have to be disciplined this year to get these stories done that I have to write. And then shortly after that, I highlighted Proverbs 23:12, which says, apply your heart to discipline and your ears to words of knowledge. Okay, that's the one I just read, right? I've got that twice in my book. Oh my gosh, now I can't find the other. Oh, here it is. Plans of the diligent surely lead to gain. Proverbs 21:5a. So those were the 2. So for me, it's like discipline and diligence is going to bring me that perfect peace that, God promises. So my words are kind of diligent and discipline wrapped up together. And then Bethany also had discipline, right, sweetie?
Yeah, I love the verse you put up there, Bethany. That verse really convicted me and encouraged me. That was a great verse.
And what was the one that you came up? Where did that come from for you?
It was Hebrews 12:11, and you guys were talking about how, divine appointments, like interruptions. And I do not talk on the phone very often, ever. And I had a girl who I've not mentoring, but she'd read my book a long time ago. We stayed in touch, mostly on Instagram. And she said, my friends and I need to talk to you. Can we call you? And it was 10:30 on a Friday night. And I was like, I don't know about that. So I really had to pray about it in that moment. I thought, is this going to be something I need to do, or I didn't know. And I talked to them, and one of the girls actually said that verse, Hebrews 12:11, about no discipline is fun at the time, but it brings peace. And I thought it was just captivating. And I thought, I hope I helped them during that phone call, but they really helped me. And so then that is my motivation for getting things done, is because I have so much anxiety over so much stuff that I really want the peace. And I think, okay, if I sit down and I'm disciplined in this, God promises there will be peace in it, even in these small ways. So that's really my whole thing right now, is peace. Because I reward myself in other ways all the time, like I said. But it's the peace that I'm after. So that's why I have to be disciplined.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool that she said that. And I was like, she had verses from the Old Testament, and I had that one in Hebrews that I was holding on to. Same word. It was crazy. Really cool.
Yeah, the same. And then I found that the peace verse, it was Isaiah 26:3. I do have all these written in my journal, but they were kind of on different pages. You keep in perfect peace one whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. And actually, that's the verse that I've got above that, above the Excel worksheet that I have that shows all the projects that I have to do this year and how I'm going to get them done. So that's like, God will keep me in perfect peace as long as I'm diligent and disciplined. So I'm tying all those together as my overarching theme of 2019, I guess you would say.
I have Bible verses all over around me, like, God blessing the work of our hands, and now finish the work. And I'm going to put those discipline verses, I'm going to print up memes of those discipline verses and put them up too, because when I read the word that's around me, it empowers me and it gives me strength to do what I need to do.
Yeah, it really does. It does.
If in closing, I was just going to add, when we talked about the one word, that was the first time I ever did that was last year. And I actually found it on Twitter. And so I thought, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to pick a word. And so I prayed about it, and the Lord gave me the word pursue. And
I like that.
3 times the Lord confirmed it through someone else that was my word. So I really kept trying no matter what I did. Even if I was tired, I'm like, no, the word's pursue. So I had it on my desk. I had it on my phone as my screensaver, that word followed me through the year. And I did write back in the chat that there was a, for Chicken Soup for the Soul, had different entries. And so first they had it as November, and then they changed the deadline to December 31st, which was midnight. And so I had a story about angels, about my mom who saw an angel. And I was determined, I didn't care what was going on through Christmas, I was going to work on that article. And I got it in at 12 o'clock, midnight, which was December 31st. And as I did it, I told my husband, I said, I did it. I pursued till the end of the year.
Good for you.
Amen. Congratulations. That's all.
But I just think it's interesting how we're talking. It's all together between the goals. Even if you just take a scripture or a word, and that's what pushes you right through the whole year, you know? So.
And your word can be like, a lot of the times people do choose verbs like pursue or, you know, but one year I did an acorn, and I even got a little acorn charm for a necklace, and I wore it most of the year because it was a year of, well, it was the year I got divorced. So it was like a year of starting over and a year of all kinds of things. And it was like that little acorn for me was potential and promise and God's provision. I mean, it really just symbolized so many things I couldn't encapsulate in one word, that I could encapsulate it in this little acorn charm, that God was watching out for me and things were going to be okay. So, you know, you just have to, you know, be imaginative too about those kinds of things. Okay, we're getting close to the end of the hour, and I know Bethany has something she wants to share with us in the after party. So that's it.
I'm afraid of what I might say on camera. So I'm not like that off camera.
That is an incentive, though. If you can't, you know, we're glad that you joined us on the replay, but we'd really love to have you be with us live every Tuesday morning at 11 Eastern, 10 Central, because then you do get to stay for the after party, and you never know what's going to be said there, and you miss it if you're only watching the recording. Jan, next week, tell us about our guest.
Yeah, Tom Blubaugh is the CEO of Authors Community. He's been here once before to tell a little bit about our community, and I believe our other partner, Gina Burgess, will be here, and the three of us are going to be talking about our new website that we have for Authors Community. We have eBook Christian, where you can, I believe it's $45 for a whole year to advertise your book on the website.
Oh, wow.
And we're putting together a package for authors to help them with all the different aspects. You can buy the whole package, you can just buy pieces of it, all the different things to support authors. And we finally agreed that we are going to be a Christian community and promote it that way.
Okay.
It basically had been, but we just decided we need to step up and say, yes, this is God's community. We're reaching out, trying to help others that want to break into the writing world.
Well, great. Well, thank you. So you want to be here next week to hear Tom talk about Authors Community, and Jan will be with us as a co-host that day too. So I'm going to turn off the recording again. If you're here on the replay, thank you. Thank you for listening. We hope you join us sometime. All of you guys, stay here for the after party. Bye-bye.